All right, well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank y'all so much for being here today, here at Allen Chapel. I am Troy Dante Presswood. I'm the president of the Ward 8 Democrats, and again, I'm grateful to see many of you here. First, I do want to thank our friends at Allen Chapel for opening up this community space for us, for this important conversation. I call this meeting Training the Trainers. We're going to all go out and help others. I was just talking to my friend over there that we're going to all go out and help others understand what RCV is, right? We're going to be the trainers of others once we're done here. And so we appreciate the church's commitment to the people of Ward 8 and to civic engagement. We're also thankful to Minister Rick for being with us and for helping us welcome us into this space here. We'll bring him up in just a quick second. I also want to acknowledge the Office of Councilmember Trayon White Sr. for his support of this effort and for continuing to help connect our residents to information that matters. And of course, I want to thank all of you again for showing up. So let's be real here. Election changes can make people nervous, especially when folks have been voting a certain way for a long time. And so that's why we're here. You know, when it comes to something new, we want folks to know exactly what they need to do. We want to make sure our seniors are in the, that they know exactly what they need to do in terms of voting. We want to make sure our first-time voters also know what they need to do and to understand what they need to do. I keep saying it over and over again, but it really is about what it is that they need to do. Longtime voters, they're asking us, what do they need to do? We're here to make sure they know what they need to do. How do you rank your candidates without making a mistake? Those type of questions are what we keep hearing. Those are the fair questions. They're good questions and they're necessary questions. And that's exactly, again, why we're here. So as part of our voter education mission, the Ward 8 Dems wanted to create a space where people can hear directly from the source. They can ask honest questions, clear up any confusion, and leave feeling more confident about voting in the upcoming primary election, which is, what's the date? Pop quiz. Did somebody say January? Okay. Yeah. That's a long way away. It is Tuesday, June 16th. And that's a few months from now. So we want to make sure that as we are here to talk about what ranked choice voting is and what it isn't, clear up any confusion, we want to go out into the community and tell others about what we've learned here today. And this meeting will focus on one thing, making sure that voters in Ward 8 understand ranked choice voting and do not feel left behind. They should not feel left behind in any way. Because confusion suppresses participation. Can you say that with me? Confusion suppresses participation. And what we know is that confidence strengthens democracy. And in Ward 8, we want to make sure every vote counts. So today is not about politics, which is what we normally talk about. It's not about who you vote for. It's about making sure you understand how to vote, how your ballot works, and your choices, and what your choices mean, and what to expect in this new system. So before we get started, I want to ask the audience if there are any, I want to ask you a couple of questions. For one, how many of you have ever used a ranked choice voting style, ever? Okay. Let the record reflect just 2 people raise their hands. What have you ever, hold on, let me get to my right questions here. Have you ever voted before but never with ranked choice voting? So in other words, are you someone who's voted before? That should be everybody, okay? Are you a first-time voter here in the District of Columbia? Anyone? Okay. Are you worried about making a mistake on your ballot? Anybody? So no one feels, okay, so a couple of people feel like they may make a mistake on the ballot. Great. Would you feel better if you saw a sample ballot, which, by the way, you all have in front of you right now, right? So that helps. Okay. Good. You know someone else, maybe a grandparent, a parent, a neighbor, or a church member who was confused about ranked choice voting. Is that anybody here? I know that's me. Okay. Well, so this tells us right here that folks are paying attention. So some of you do know what you need to know about ranked choice voting, and there's no shame in that, but you still have questions, and that's why we're here. So at this time, I want to bring up Minister Rick of Allen Chapel to bring us greetings on behalf of this great and storied institution. And then we will move forward with our event today. Minister Rick.
Good afternoon, family. Good afternoon. I want to thank my brother, Brother Presswood, and the Ward 8 Democrats for using Allen as a place where the community can come. I thank you for coming to educate the community. I know my mom hasn't lived in DC for the better part of 20 years, but she was listening to the radio and she's like, why are they doing that? Why are they changing? What's wrong with it? So I can come back to a lot of my family and kind of explain and educate them. So I thank you that you have using Allen as a place. So on behalf of our pastor, Pastor Michael E. Bell, Sr., and the Allen Chapel family, we welcome you with open arms and thank you for continuing to do what you do in and around Ward 8. Thank you.
Thank you. Please give a round of applause louder than that because they opened up the church as soon as we asked for them, and we're so thankful to Pastor Bell as well. I mentioned earlier that this meeting is held in conjunction with the office of the Ward 8 Council Member, Trayon White Sr., and his Chief of Staff, Sheila Bunn, is here. So I wanted to bring her up as she wants to acknowledge that and provide some remarks from the office.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Just wanted to say that Councilmember White felt it very important that we educate our residents about ranked choice voting, particularly right here in Ward 8 in our various communities who do not have experience with ranked choice voting. June 16th, this election season is an important and pivotal one for the district, but for Ward 8 in particular. So we want to make sure that our residents know when they go to the polls that they are voting confidently and in the right way. So thank you to the DC Board of Elections, to the Ward 8 Dems, and for all of our Ward 8 neighbors and friends who are here today to learn about ranked choice voting. Once you get this education, encourage your neighbors and your friends to come and do an education for themselves. This isn't the last one. We're gonna have so many more right here in Ward 8 and across this city because we gotta get it right on June 16th. And Councilmember White is pleased to be a part of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's thank Sheila again. Yeah, I noticed that this sort of started sliding, right? Like, we got to get it right. We can't be crooked. Gotta make sure it's right. Democracy depends on it. All right, thank you, Minister Rick, and thank you again to Sheila Bunn. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our guest today, Monica Evans. She is the Executive Director of the DC Board of Elections. Monica previously served as the Senior Policy Advisor at the board, where she assisted with election operations and policy, implementation, and provided direct oversight over voter education and outreach, as well as the election worker division. Yep, that's it. I should pause right there. Before stepping into the ED role, she brought years of leadership experience from the U.S. Election Assistance Commission, where she served as the Director of Grants Management and oversaw compliance, reporting, and implementation related to Help America Vote Act. In that role, she worked with federal officials, grant recipients, and even members of Congress on election-related policy and accountability matters. She also held senior roles at the Department of Health and Human Services, the Legal Services Corporation, and AmeriCorps. I'm an AmeriCorps alumni. I didn't know that. First time looking at your bio. And she began her career at the Maryland Governor's Commission on Service. I want to bring her up, but I do want to acknowledge, and I know she will too, but we want to acknowledge them from the Ward 8 Democrats that she brought staff from the DC Board of Elections. And so Jelani, who's been going around to talking with all of you, passing out the ballots, let's thank him for that effort. And then David was here earlier. I think he helped to set up these machines and helped to set up the work with Jelani. I think he's outside, or maybe he's gone back to headquarters because there is, it's open today. As you know, the day is the first day of challenge period. So I just want to thank their staff for helping us be here today. So without further ado, let's bring up Monica Evans.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. As has already been stated, this is really critically important that we cast a very broad and wide net when it comes to educating the residents and the voters in the District of Columbia. This is a very important election cycle in DC, but also in our country. And so the efforts that we take, we hope will really help to dispel some of the confusion and some of the uncertainty around ranked choice voting. And we are happy to come out. If you have other organizations you belong to, civic organizations, fraternal organizations, other churches you belong to, please reach out to us. I will attend a church service and stay after the church service and do a presentation. It doesn't matter. You know, I jokingly say, but it was true, there's a weed dispensary in the District of Columbia that has Wisdom Wednesdays. So I went to the weed dispensary on Wisdom Wednesdays and did a presentation. So we really want to reach people where they are and cast a very wide net as far as education is concerned. So ranked choice voting is here. So it was not the decision of DC Board of Elections to implement ranked choice voting. It was on the November 2024 ballot. 73% of voters said yes, they wanted ranked choice voting. And so subsequently, the council funded ranked choice voting. And so now it is our job to implement it for the June 16th primary and special elections. So one of the things that I will note, the way ranked choice voting is being rolled out in DC, it's very aggressive, and one of the more aggressive rollouts in the country, because we are using it not just for the primary election, but primary and general. If you're familiar with other jurisdictions, they may just use it for the primary, or they may just use it for the general, and they may limit the number of contests that where they use ranked choice voting. As you can see here, we pretty much use it for every contest that's on the ballot, as long as there are 3 or more named candidates. So with the exception of your political party offices, ranked choice voting is applicable. So again, please note there are many models of RCV out there. And so one of the things we need to do is establish ourselves as the trusted voice. Because if you go on YouTube, if you look at things from other jurisdictions, that may not be the way it's being implemented in DC. And so we're really asking people and driving people to come to us, to come to our website to get the information. If you want materials, if you have a neighborhood group, if you have a block party, if you want to come and get palm cards, FAQs, we are happy to get that information to you. You do not have to reinvent the wheel. We will drop materials off to you. We have yard signs that are coming with QR codes that will have additional information. So if there's anything that we can do to help you disseminate information, please let us know. And so essentially, to be clear, we did not write the legislation for ranked choice voting. The way it's being implemented in DC came to us, and we were only responsible for drafting the regulations around ranked choice voting. So again, all contests that contain at least 3 qualified candidates, which means your ballot may have contests that are ranked choice voted and contests that are not ranked choice voted. If there are only 2 candidates, that means you're going to vote the way you always have. And so you're going to see some instances on the ballot where you have columns where you will rank. There may be a contest where you are only ranking 1 candidate as you always have. So that's something we need to know. You rank in order of your preference. You do not have to rank. You can rank up to 5 candidates, but you are not required to rank up to 5 candidates. And you're not required to rank at all. Again, if you just want to rank 1 candidate, and it could be a field of 15, 20, that is your choice. And again, the objective of ranked choice voting to be declared the winner, a candidate must cross the 50% threshold. And so you must receive more than 50% of the votes to be declared a winner. So this is just an example of kind of what a ballot will look like. And so you have 5 columns. You will fill in 1 oval per column. And one thing we want to stress, just because you're ranking 5 candidates, one, you're not getting 5 votes because you only have 1 active vote at a time. And so initially, we will only look at votes in that first column. So that is one thing I do want to mention. Ranking candidates will never hurt your first choice, because your first choice candidate will always be your choice until and unless that candidate comes off of the ballot. So you're not required to rank multiple candidates, and you can rank just one. So just to give you an example of what that may look like, Beyonce, Chuck Brown, Donald Duck, Roadrunner, Coyote. So this would be an example of a properly marked ballot. So this is one of the things that I think is causing confusion and giving people pause, and that is the possibility of making a contest inactive. And so one of the things you don't want to do, you don't want to give the same candidate multiple rankings. So if you say, I only like Donald Duck, you don't want to rank Donald Duck 1 through 5. If you do that, it's not necessarily a fatal flaw in this instance, but you're not exercising your full voice when it comes to ranked choice voting. So here, ranking Donald Duck number 1, as long as Donald Duck remains in the race, your vote stays with Donald Duck. We never go to a second choice or third choice until Donald Duck is removed from the ballot. The only way Donald Duck gets removed from the ballot is when you go to rounds of tabulation and he has the fewest number of votes. And so if Donald Duck comes off of the ballot and we have to go to your second choice, you don't have a second choice because Donald Duck is no longer on that ballot. So your first choice would count, second and subsequent choices would not count in this example.
So we were told, I'm sorry, do you have a time for questions?
Yes, there will be questions and answers, but if you, well, I'll go through. I may answer your question and then we'll save questions for the end. Absolutely.
We will have a Q&A, and if you want to write it down, please write your question down as well. To mark it. Yes.
Okay, so this is another example, another mistake to avoid. So in this instance, the voters selected 2 candidates for number 2. So they have Beyonce number 1. For number 2, they selected Donald Duck and Chuck Brown. Again, Beyonce being number 1, as long as Beyonce is on the ballot, your vote is going to stay with Beyonce. In the event Beyonce gets the fewest number of votes in a round, that's when she comes off the ballot. If we have to go to your second choice, here your second choice, you have 2, it's at that point this particular contest becomes inactive or invalid. So if Beyonce ends up winning this contest and eventually crossing the 50% threshold, you're not harmed because Beyonce was your choice. But if we ever have to move to your second, third, fourth, fifth choices, then your voice is no longer in this particular contest. So again, another mistake to avoid, skipping rankings. So here we have Beyonce number 1, nobody number 2, and then you have a choice for number 3 and number 4. Even though we ask that you do not skip a ranking, this is not a fatal flaw. You can skip 1 ranking. If you skip 1 ranking, this is the equivalent of having all of your rankings move up. So in this instance, you have number 1, Beyonce, nobody number 2, number 3, and number 4. So Donald Duck would essentially move up to your second choice, and Chuck Brown would move up to your third choice. So not a fatal flaw, but again, you're not necessarily exercising your full vote in the event there are more than 3 candidates you want to rank. So here, you do not have anyone number 2, but this will not inactivate or invalidate your ballot. This is the problem you do want to avoid, and that is 2 consecutive skips. Whenever you skip 2 in a row, at the point you skip 2, this contest will become inactive. So here, this voter didn't vote for anyone first or second. And so that means at the point of the double skip, this ballot for this contest becomes inactive at this point. And so this vote for Chuck Brown will not count. And again, it's at the point where you have the double skip. If I vote for Chuck Brown number 1, I vote for Beyonce number 2, and then I skip 3 and 4, and then vote for someone number 5, my first 2 would count because I have votes, but it's not until I get to 3 where I have the double skip. So it's at the double skip. So if it doesn't go beyond 2 rounds of tabulation, you're fine in this instance. So again, a candidate must receive 50% of the votes to be declared the winner. During each round of tabulation, the candidate with the fewest votes is removed from the ballot. And even though you're ranking up to 5, only 1 of your votes is valid at any given time. So we often get the question, well, I'm ranking 5 candidates, does that mean I get 5 votes? No, only 1 of your votes is ever active at any given time. And as long as your candidate is still on the ballot, your vote remains with your highest ranked candidate. So I'm going to show you a little example of what that looks like. So this is a pretend contest. So we have candidates A, B, C, and D, and this is the first round of balloting. And so once we tabulate all of the votes, we can see that candidate A is winning, but nobody has crossed that 50% threshold. So in our traditional way of voting in DC, candidate A would have been declared the winner, and we go home.
Right.
Unfortunately, not so easy anymore, because candidate A has not crossed the 50% threshold. So what we would do, we would look at the candidate with the fewest number of votes. In this instance is candidate C. And so candidate C will come off the ballot, and we go to the voters who voted for candidate C and look at their next choice. Okay, so I'm just gonna speak up. So if my voice goes low, just raise your hand. So in this case, we had to go to everyone who voted for C and look at who they voted for next. And so in this instance, C comes off of the ballot, and you can see that somebody voted for A, somebody voted for B, somebody voted for D. We still do not have anyone who has crossed the 50% threshold. So we have to go to another round of tabulation. So candidate D now comes off of the ballot because candidate D has the fewest number of votes. Once candidate D comes off of the ballot, we look at all of those voters who now have a vote in for candidate D, and we redistribute it. We redistribute those votes based on their next ranking. Here we can see now candidate B has crossed the 50% threshold. Candidate B would be declared the winner in this contest. So you can see how ranked choice voting can change the outcome of an election.
So when you're counting on to the next level, is this being done manually or electronically?
It's being done electronically. Fortunately, we're not the first jurisdiction to implement ranked choice voting. And so we have been looking at best practices in other models around the country. There's software that does this. And even with the way we've always
What's the name
done
of the software?
RC Tab.
RC Tab?
Yes. And even if you go and you look at how we've always administered elections, we always do logic and accuracy testing of all of our voting equipment before we roll it out. We issue a press release. That process is open to the public. You can come and you can view that process, and you can see how we make sure each piece of equipment, everything is operating and functioning the way it should. If there's ever a piece of equipment that is not performing properly and providing the correct results, that piece of equipment never makes it to a vote center. So that is a process we do during every election cycle. And so we will continue to do testing to make sure everything is working properly. But we are using software and equipment that has been tested through ranked choice voting.
So are you gonna have additional staff at these voting polls? I know it's always like.
Yes, I'm getting to that if you give me just a minute.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
before we ask questions, let's just let Monica get through this presentation because it's being recorded. And then we will always take your questions at the end.
So just a few things that we want to know. One, it is going to take longer to mark your ballot because you're used to going to a vote center, you select one person, move to the next contest, one person, move to the next contest. Now you're going to really have to be thoughtful and think about who you're going to rank second, third, fourth, fifth, or if you choose to rank anyone second, third, fourth, fifth through various contests. So again, we will be mailing a ballot to everyone. Even if you choose to vote in person, we're really asking people to use that mail ballot as your vote plan. So when you get that ballot in the mail, that's what your ballot is going to look like when you go to the vote center. So that will allow you to go through, look at those candidates, and come to the vote center prepared with how you're going to vote in that particular contest for the election, whether it be the special election or the primary election. So that is a tool that we're hearing as far as best practices. We've had a lot of jurisdictions that said, we wish we had enough money to send everyone a real ballot so they can practice.
It forces you to get the, you now this because you have to
Yes,
know.
and so fortunately in DC, we don't have to worry about getting additional budget money to send everyone a ballot because we're doing that anyway. So that's one thing we are saying. If you are voting in person, it's gonna take a little longer. We're trying to think about how much more equipment we're gonna have to deploy to vote centers just to reduce lines because we know the process is gonna take a little longer. Also, we know it does not matter how much voter education and outreach we do, there will absolutely be people who show up to the vote center, they'll look at that ballot and they'll say, what is this? We are specifically training our site coordinators in ranked choice voting. We will have information at our vote centers on ranked choice voting. We're working on a video that will be available so people can go and get the presentation and it will guide them through the process. So there are a number of things that we're trying to do even to address those who show up to a vote center and they need some help in walking through and understanding the process. And so the results also will look quite a bit different. Because if you're used to going to our website and looking at election results, you usually are able to see, the percentage of votes each candidate receives. But in addition to that, we need to make sure that voters can understand who comes off of the ballot and how those votes were redistributed. Because we need to make sure that people have trust in the process. And so now we're working with some other jurisdictions as far as best practices around the display that will be on the website. So those are things that we're working through. One of the big questions we get, when are we gonna get election results? So we always issue and post election results on election night. That will not change. However, we never certify an election on election night. People always say, well, I hear they declared a winner. The AP may declare a winner, a campaign may declare a winner, but we do not declare a winner until that contest is certified by Board of Elections. And so what you will see on election night, you will be able to see all in-person votes. So everything we get from the vote centers for early voting and election day, you will see those posted on our website. We will also be able to post any mail ballots that have been processed to that point. But as you know, a lot of people like to wait until election day, even with the mail ballots, to deposit those ballots. And so we may get 20 or 30,000 ballots on election day. Those ballots are not going to be processed that day. One, we have 100% signature verification in DC. So once we get those ballots, we have to scan them so they hit the tracker. We have to remove the flag, get an image of the signature, and verify those signatures manually to ensure that there's a match. Once there's a match, we're able to take that secrecy sleeve out, remove the return envelope, and then we start taking ballots out. So once we're able to verify the signature and we remove that secrecy sleeve from the outer envelope, we can no longer track your ballot to your name. I've had people ask, well, how did I vote in 2022? We have no idea, and that's intentional, because your vote should be private and independent. We can tell you you voted, but we cannot tell you how you voted. So we know that we can also get ballots up to 10 days after the election. So as long as a mail ballot is postmarked by election day, we can still receive it and count it as long as we receive it by that 10th day. So as any ballots we get by June 26th, we will be able to count, and they will be part of the tabulation process. So the one thing that you'll see on election night, you'll see the first round, first column results, and we will continue to update as we always have. And once we get all ballots in hand, we will be able to run final rounds of tabulation, and you'll be able to see who the winner is. If you have somebody running unopposed, that's a lot easier. AP may call it, a campaign may call it, and then also in some instances, people can determine if it's a race that is not subject to RCV, because if there are not 3 or more candidates, then that race wouldn't be subject to RCV and people will have a better idea. So we also are gonna have a media day, because we really need the media to be our partner in this, particularly as they display and report results out. So once we get all of this figured out as far as what it's gonna look like, how we're gonna release results, the cadence of updating, we're gonna have a media day, invite the press in so that they can help tell the story and so that the correct information is getting out. So just some of the resources we have. So we do have an RCV page on our website. If you've been there, one of the tools we have a ballot, and that's part of an app. You can go and you can vote, it's ice cream flavors, and not only can you vote, but you can click next and you can see how the rounds of tabulation look. And so that would just kind of allow you to see that, because there are really 2 components to understand: how to properly vote your ballot, but then also understanding how that tabulation process works. And so that app will help with that tabulation process. We have a lab in our office. So we brought voting equipment today so that you can see what the ballot is gonna look like. But if you wanna come to our lab and practice on actual voting equipment, we'll have sample ballots, FAQs, and then you can sit down one-on-one and have someone walk you through the process. So that's another resource. Palm cards, FAQs, speaking engagements, we not only in person but virtual. Happy to come out, please invite us. I just did some final edits on a video. That video is gonna live on our website, and so people can come and view the video, and it will be a presentation similar to what you're seeing today, and it also has a Q&A segment with that. And then of course, you always get a voter guide, postcards. We've mailed 1 postcard out. We have another one coming out probably in about another week. And so we're really encouraging people to look at the information that's out there. Don't wait until it's the day before the election. If you have questions, reach out to us. We have a separate email address set up, rcv@dcboe.org. If you have questions, if you have suggestions, if you want us to come out, please reach out to us, and we're happy to respond. So that is pretty much the presentation, and I really would like to open it up to any Q&A.
All right, let's give Monica a round of applause. And thank you for working through the audio issues that we had. Okay, so I know there's some questions here. I just want to clarify, I want to ask some clarifying questions about some things you just said. And then also ask you about this. So let me start with this though. Now we're going to be political for just a second. Now, the President of the United States has issued or is threatening to issue an EO that talks about how people can vote in the country. Those EOs are a little bit more sharper edged in DC than they are, say, other states. How are you and the board interpreting that executive order, and what does that mean for how we want to vote for the upcoming primary?
We are actively monitoring what's coming out of the White House and monitoring legislation. So there are a few things that we're looking at Board of Elections. During the 2024 election cycle, we implemented the Local Resident Voting Rights Amendment Act, which allowed non-citizens to vote in local elections. The House of Representatives has already voted to repeal that legislation. There is also a companion Senate bill to repeal that legislation, but action in the Senate has not happened yet. So we're waiting to see what happens. And so that means we have a foot in both worlds, because if that gets repealed, that means all of the systems that we put in place, databases, the ability to print 2 ballots, one with federal contests, one with non-federal contests, all of that is going to have to be tweaked. So that means that's extra work on our part, and not knowing when that decision is going to come down, and we may have to work very quickly. Also, the SAVE Act, which will require citizenship checks and voter ID for voting. And so again, that has passed the House, and we're waiting for word coming out of the Senate. The president has put out several executive orders. There have been several lawsuits. A lot of lawsuits are in the courts right now. And so we're waiting to see the results of those lawsuits to determine how we will act, because some portions of those executive orders have been deemed unconstitutional. The other thing, I have been sued by the Department of Justice because the administration has asked me to turn over our voter rolls with all of the information, including social security numbers, driver's license numbers, any personal information. The only information we turned over would be publicly available information. So if you go and ask for the voter rolls, if you're going out collecting signatures, that's what we turned over. And we did not turn over what they asked for. And so I have been sued in my capacity as executive director. I'm in good company, because over 22 other jurisdictions have been sued for refusing to do the same. And jurisdictions that did comply, because there were promises about how that information was going to be used. And we'll just say there was not complete transparency with how that information was going to be used. So I'm following the law. I'll just leave it there. So we're monitoring,
All of that.
Yes.
Out of the White House and out of the Congress as well.
Yes.
You mentioned earlier about signature verification, that every ballot is matched to a signature. Is that in like lightning speed? Like how fast does that happen in your systems?
Yes, initially it was 100% manual, so we have people reviewing signatures. We do have signature verification software now that helps us with that process, but we do also have additional layers of review. And then if you actually submit your mail ballot and you forget to sign it, we also have a cure process where we will reach out to you and you have an opportunity to come in and provide that signature. Or if we have a signature and there's a mismatch, we know due to age, due to health issues, your signature may not look the same way it looked the last time you voted. And so we don't want to assume that that's not you. So we will absolutely reach out and give you an opportunity to cure that signature before we deem it's not a proper ballot.
50%, so on the night of election night, if we're looking at the website, right, and we see a candidate in a ranked choice election that has 50% plus one, should we assume they have won that night, or do we need to wait for more of the vote to come in order to see how it will eventually shake out?
Yeah, unfortunately, you still need to wait for more of the vote to come in, because the denominator of the total votes is still, that more ballots are still rolling in. And so until we know what that final denominator is for all of the votes in that contest, that's when we determine who has crossed 50%. And so I, caution people, if you cross 50% on election night and it's a really close race, for instance, we're getting, upwards of 30,000 additional ballots to count. That could look very different in a week. And so that's one of the things that we're really cautioning people about. Don't celebrate too soon and don't get disappointed too soon. We really have to wait until all of the votes are in before we can declare a winner.
I'm glad you mentioned earlier that you don't declare a winner until after the processes of every ballot is counted. Maybe you go through the cure process, all of that till your date there. But I know, like Regina and I have had a heated conversation in the past about, well, why? Who's declaring a winner, and why is this being declared a winner, and why is that not? And so I'm glad you mentioned that, because what I've learned is that even in New York, which has ranked choice voting, they were able to declare a winner that night. AP did. And the reason why they're able to do that is, yes, they're looking at data coming in real time from their state board of elections or the city board of elections, but they've also done some the surveys, like separate surveys, those surveys that you all get that are annoying, but they kind of have a sense of data out there in terms of who's showing up at the election, who's turned in the ballot. And so they're using all of that data to crunch, and also looking at the returns that the board gives, and they're able to say, well, we're projecting that this person's gonna win. Even though on election night, Nandani did not have 50% plus one, he was right on the cusp, but they were like, yeah, this guy's gonna get it, based on the other research that they did. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because a lot of people blame y'all for making these calls, and I remember fielding phone calls from folks saying they did not call this is the AP. Last question for me, and then we want to hear from the rest of you, is that I have found really good value in using Ballot Tracker. And that's when you know when it's coming, when you know when it's coming to your mailbox, you know when it's been picked up, when it's been processed, I believe. Can you talk a little bit about that and why folks in here should sign up for it?
Yes. So Ballot Tracks is the software we use where you can track your mail ballot. So if you sign up for Ballot Tracks, I know when my ballot is going to, when it's been mailed. And so then I have an idea when my ballot will be delivered. We always message, we send a ballot to every registered voter. I cannot say every registered voter is going to get that ballot, because not only do I have Ballot Tracks, I have USPS informed delivery. In 2024, I never got my primary election ballot. I don't know why. I knew the exact day it was supposed to be delivered. There was an image of it when I went to informed delivery. It never made it to my house.
You live in Ward 8?
At that time, Ward 7. So, but we will. But the good thing about Ballot Tracks, it puts you on the lookout for when you should get that ballot, and then you can reach out to Board of Elections when you have not received that ballot. And so there is a process for us to get another ballot to you. If you want another mail ballot, you can come and pick one up. So we do absolutely have a process. So signing up for Ballot Tracks is a very useful tool. You can also see when your ballot has been received after you voted, and then when it is being processed. And so you know you're good, because some people don't understand the whole process of signature verification, and it takes a while. And so they will see that their ballot has been received, but it hasn't been processed, and they get nervous, and we get a lot of calls. And so they say, should I go vote in person? I want to make sure my vote counts, and I understand that. Voting is very important, and I absolutely want to make sure my vote always counts. The good thing about DC, if for whatever reason, as we know, there are problems with USPS, but there's no perfect system. There's not any blame on USPS. Things happen. And if for any reason you have not received verification that your ballot has been received, you always have the option of voting in person. We will accept whichever ballot we receive first. Some jurisdictions will automatically say you have voted twice, and they will seek criminal prosecution for that. That is not the case in DC. We will accept whichever ballot we receive first, and then the second one will be discarded. So if you have mailed your ballot and there's never any information in the tracker that we've received it, and it's election day, there is no harm if you go and vote in person. So that's another thing just to be mindful of. Another thing I just want to mention, with some jurisdictions that are able to produce results on election night, we have up to 10 days to get mail ballots. and to count them. Some jurisdictions don't have that luxury, so the rules are different in other jurisdictions. And so sometimes they have everything in hand, so they can project a winner. So those are also just some of the differences you'll see across jurisdictions. So when you ask, well, how can they do it and you can't do it? Those are just some of the things, and the election laws are different. You know, we have same-day registration in DC. Other jurisdictions don't have same-day registration. So we do not have a centralized system of elections in DC, so it really does change.
All right, so I think Dewan had a question first, then we come to Regina, we come to Sheila, in that order, then I'll come back that way.
Monica, is it possible to go back to your slide where you showed how we do it wrong when you were doing the Beyonce and Donald Duck thing? I thought that we heard last week that if I put Beyonce in the first, second, and third, that my ballot was invalidated. It sounds like you said something different.
So that would be this example.
Right.
Where you have the same candidate ranked 1, 2, and 3.
Right.
So your first column vote will count. It doesn't become invalidated until we get to the second column.
Okay.
So if somebody does straight across the board Beyonce, they will still count once for Beyonce?
Correct.
It won't be wrong.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
And then I have another question about voting, but I think I need to pull you to the side because it's about my mom having dementia and would that invalidate her vote?
Okay, we can talk about that. Okay.
Regina?
So I have a two-part question. During the challenge period, there is petitions that are being challenged and they are short of a vote. Is the party allowed to turn in more petitions or is that just it?
So the deadline for submitting petitions is over, but we do have a hearing process. So if someone challenges your petitions, there is a hearing process and that is adjudicated in the appeal process, et cetera. So you have an opportunity to appeal your case, whatever it is, you know, if they're questioning the validity of signatures or the number of signatures. So that will be able to go through our adjudication process with both sides presenting evidence, but you cannot supplement your submission. So if you turned in, 300 signatures short, you do not have a second bite of the apple after this to turn in more signatures.
Okay. The second thing is for those who running on slates. And say for instance, people don't vote for the whole slate. They vote for individuals. How are those votes calculated? Or are you all just putting them all in one basket, slate by slate? Or are you doing individual votes?
Yes, and I'll be honest with you, this is all new for us. And so we are working with the Center for Civic Design about the best way to display that and with those tabulation results. And so we will have more guidance. So I think I know the answer, but because we're working with them through the best practice of the slate, because that's a little different how the campaigns will come together with the slate. So more information is coming on that because I don't want
Because
to.
like 5 people
Yes.
asked me on the 18th, well, what if we don't wanna vote for the whole
So
slate?
slate, you just want to
We
vote
wanna
for
vote for
individuals.
individuals.
Yes, there's always an option of voting for individuals, but I want clarity on how that is going to play out with
Yeah, I'm gonna need
tabulation.
to follow up with you on
Yes.
that because I'm quite sure that's gonna become a
It
challenge.
is, and we will make sure we message that properly and that we get the word out. So that will be something we will heavily message because we want people to be clear about how they vote and what that means.
And is any of this followed up on your website or either by the general counsel, your general counsel, because it's gonna be a challenge.
Yes.
Just saying.
Yes, we're posting, everything we develop, we're posting on our website.
Okay.
And so the RCV page on our website is supplemented rather frequently.
Okay, thank you.
Sheila?
I think, Monica, you answered the question, but what is that time frame from night of election until you all shut off counting of ballots? Is it still 10 days?
10 days, so we can receive our last ballots on the 26th of June, as long as they're postmarked by June 16th. So even if we get ballots on the 26th, but they're postmarked the 27th, the 17th, 18th, or 19th, then those would not be ballots we can count.
Thank you.
So I have another question, sorry. So that first ballot, I know you shouldn't do that, but if your vote doesn't get counted unless Donald Duck loses in the first round, right? Your second vote won't count. But if he were still winning,
Correct.
would your vote
So
wouldn't count because he's not the person eliminated?
So
Okay.
even though we're saying you should not vote for the same candidate in multiple rounds, this is the equivalent of just voting for Donald Duck in the first round. So it would be just like voting for one person. And so even if you did Donald Duck across the board, it would count in the first round. But as long as Donald Duck is still on the ballot, your vote would stay with Donald Duck. The only way Donald Duck comes off of the ballot is if Donald Duck gets the fewest number of votes in a tabulation round. And so once Donald Duck comes off the ballot, and you keep voting for Donald Duck, he's no longer on the ballot. So that's why that ballot becomes inactive after that first round, because we're only going to rounds 2, 3, and 4 if Donald Duck comes off.
So basically, if my choice gets eliminated, who do I want my vote to go to?
Exactly. And to reiterate that, if your candidate gets eliminated, who do you want your next choice vote to go to? And that's the process of multiple rounds of ranking.
And then my last question, you kind of mentioned it earlier, like UPS. Are there any, we know the post-dating thing, foolishness has changed. So I know we have the boxes, but is there any other things people should be doing if they're putting their ballots in the mail?
Yes. So we will have 55 mail ballot drop boxes throughout the city, and each early vote center and each vote center will also have drop boxes where you can drop off ballots. There has been guidance through USPS that has made people a little nervous. I have talked to representatives at USPS. I have met with them. And so one of the things that USPS wants to do, they want to come to DC and have a town hall to help to explain some of the clarification around postmarks. One of the things they said about postmarks, a lot of that has been assumed. When you put a piece of mail in a USPS mailbox before the time of pickup, we have been making assumptions that that piece of mail would be postmarked that day. They said that was never truly the case because it really has to go to the operations center, and depending on where the operations center is, that piece of mail may not be postmarked that day. And so they said that other organizations, mortgage companies, people rely on that, even with taxes, as far as that postmark, but they said that was never information that came out through USPS. But if you want to ensure you take you want your ballot to have that postmark, take it inside of the post office, and you can always have your ballot hand canceled. And then that will ensure it has that day's postmark on it. So that is something else that's going to be messaged, particularly as we get closer to putting ballots in the mail. And ballots will be mailed out on or around May 11th. And then mail ballot drop boxes will open around May 22nd. So once people start receiving those ballots, they'll start receiving information about making sure they are mailing their ballots timely.
I just want to say that the Ward 8 Democrats have always messaged that we believe you should take your ballot to a drop box or take it into a vote center, either an early vote center or a same-day election vote center, if you want to be crystal clear that it is counted. However, we have noticed, we've looked at the data, and we've noticed that more and more people are using the U.S. mail, even here in Ward 8, where we have had some challenges with the mail system. So I think clarity around how the postmark works is great. I always take it to a post office when I know it absolutely has to be stamped. I never rely on those blue boxes because, first of all, where can you find them? They've taken them up for the most part. I think there may be one on your block, like a block away, and that's like the only one. That's like the only one in all of Ward 8. Yeah, that's so. You see how far that is? There's nothing else in between.
It's nothing over in 14.
Yep. Okay. You had a question.
Okay, I'll be quick. Just for, if we're voting in person using the machines, will it look like that when we rank it right there? Or is it gonna be what's your first choice and candidates, what's your second choice and candidates, what's your third choice? Which way is it gonna be?
It will not look like the paper ballot you have in front of you.
It will look like individual.
And so we have voting equipment here,
Okay.
and so we can walk you through what it's going to look like on the machines.
Okay, perfect. And then my second question is, we might need to talk about this offline. I have 2 large apartment complexes that are in my single member district, and they do not have mailboxes at all. Like Councilman White is involved, Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton is involved. It's between the management company and USPS fighting over who's responsible for replacing the mailboxes. And that's, they're not getting mail. So we had another commissioner go over and notarize stuff for them. Some people who can get access to go up to Alabama Avenue, the post office goes, but most of them do not get mail. So I just wanted to flag that, like, and I'm glad when Sheila Bunn comes back in, because these probably have like 500 to 1,000 people living in them and they don't get mail. Like, so, and I know that's 2 buildings in my single member district. I would estimate that there was at least 1 building in people's single member districts that are not getting mail. So I'm just with this, it's like,
effort to ensure people get a mail ballot, but we can follow up offline, and if I can get the addresses of those buildings, and we can talk about ways that we can ensure people are getting that.
Reach out to Jelani to see if we could do a section at each of those buildings just for the residents.
Absolutely.
That live there. But they're not gonna get the ballots in the mail because they don't get mail. So.
Building off of Jamila's question, you have the mistakes. Working with some campaigns, the kind of thought process is go to working to encourage residents to actually go to physical voting sites to make sure that they get it right. One, there's support there, but 2, our thought process was that the machines would have software and operations or algorithms that prevent these types of errors. Do the machines, I know I haven't tried it yet, I know it's gonna come, but does the software have, for example, something that would say, hey, you've already voted for Donald Duck, and then that row and then that column is blocked out? Is that in the software already?
The only stop gap measure in the software that it will prevent is the second example where you have Donald Duck and Chuck Brown in the same column. It won't allow you to put 2 people in the same column.
Okay.
And then you'll have an opportunity to review your ballot, and you'll be able to see your choices. But it's, in a way, it's similar to the mail ballot.
I was gonna say
You can vote an improper ballot, and we get that all the time. And sometimes people make political statements with how they vote. Sometimes people will submit a completely blank ballot because they don't feel passionate about any of the candidates. But because, we fought so hard to get voting rights in this country, they do not want to miss an election with voting history. And so we have people who've done that. We have had people who will submit a ballot with every oval circled in. In that instance, clearly, nothing is going to count. But again, they will get voting history. And so we can't always determine why people want to do what they do, and we can't make assumptions about that. And so you'll have an opportunity to review what you have voted, but it will not necessarily prevent you from doing it.
Okay. Speaking of voting history, this is another thing. It says I didn't vote in 2022, and I voted in 2022.
You can always call our office, and I don't know how you voted, but but that could be very important. And we can always look, because there might be, and I don't know what your situation is, but if somebody had to do a provisional ballot, as we know, if you did a mail ballot, just like I never got my ballot in 2024 coming to me. We may not have gotten if you mailed it or something. So, but if you want to call the office, because some people have called us and they want to know, and sometimes we've been able to identify those anomalies where people say, I voted and I don't see the voting history. So if you're interested in following up, please feel free.
I was with Ward 8 Democrats and just went right inside Union Temple, so I know I voted. So,
But did you press the button? I'm just kidding. Can I follow up on his question?
Absolutely.
So, like, for example, you're saying that if the machines will not let you do this,
Correct.
but it will let you do this
Yes.
across the board.
Yes.
Okay, but it won't let you select more than one person in a particular race, because I just tried it out. By the way, we're going to get to those machines, and they've agreed to help us understand it. Pull your cameras out, like walk through it so that you can tape it, or I'm using tape, Lord, that's old school. You can record it, and then you can put it up on your socials or share it with people so you can show people exactly how it's going to go. Jelani gave me a great presentation earlier, so it's really, really cool. But okay, just want to be clear. It will let you do this, but it won't let you do that.
Correct.
Okay. And I was under the impression that the machine will not let you do this. Because it would know, oh, you've already made a choice here. You can't select Beyonce as much as I want to, more than once, or 3 times. But you're saying, well, technically, in our country and our style of voting, you can fill it in. It's not going to count. Well, in this case, it'll count once, but it won't count for the rest of the times because people do make those statements with their ballots.
Exactly. And the reason this one will not count is because when you have selected 2 individuals in the same column, there's no way for us to determine what that vote is.
Right.
So that's
They cancel
why
each other
that
out.
one does not count, because there's no way for us to know how to count it when you have 2 in the same column.
I'm sorry, this just came up. So what if I did this on my ballot, but I did this? Like, I didn't mean for that one, but I meant for Chuck Brown. Will the system know, or will it spit it out so that someone can give it a visual look to say, oh, this person meant Chuck, not Donald?
For the machines, you do have an opportunity to review what you've said before you hit that submit button. If you are using paper ballots and you make a mistake, you can always request another ballot. And there are instructions in the mail ballot packet for requesting another ballot. So if you get your ballot in the mail, you mess it up, you need another one, reach out to us. If you're voting in person using that mail ballot, the paper, you can get another ballot at the vote center. So
if I messed up my mail-in ballot, I can also say, let me just go into a vote
you
center.
can absolutely do that as well.
Okay, but you're saying that, I'm talking about just to scan the actual ballot. If I had these 2 people selected, and let's say before I dropped it in the mailbox, I said, you know what, I thought I wanted Donald, I really want Chuck. If I scratch this out, will the team know that I really meant Chuck and not Donald Trump?
Not necessarily. So it's better to get another ballot than to try to cross something out and vote for someone else, because the machine will not necessarily know which one, because it's going to look at if that bubble is filled in. So if you fill in that bubble but put an X on it,
Right.
it's still going to detect that bubble's filled in. So it's going to detect both votes. So please ask for another ballot.
What's the contact information? Because my mother and my grandmother, right, they all are in these buildings and locations, and so I'm like, it's probably best for someone to do sort of the education in there. Thank you, that's what I was saying. I figured it was someone. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Before Regina, Daryl.
Typically, I guess in some jurisdictions, you have like what's called where they may count the mail-in ballots, and that's what's posted at points in time during the day before the same day tabulation is done. Is that going to happen in this case? So if you're getting in what's been put in the ballot boxes.
So you're saying before Election Day?
Right, so on Election Day, the first votes that are posted are typically the ones that were you took from the ballot boxes.
So once we start getting mail ballots, we will begin processing those mail ballots. We will not begin tabulating those mail ballots. We cannot do that until election day.
Okay.
So when we report election results that night, we will be able to report in-person votes and mail ballots that have been processed up to that time. So pretty much what we received during early voting, that would have been processed. And so we can report on that election night, because on election day, we can tabulate everything that's been processed.
Okay, the second piece to, second question along these lines. For the non-party or the independent or what have you, in the at-large race, typically, they don't have 50%. So how is that going to work with your 50% plus one scenario?
We will keep running rounds of tabulation until somebody crosses that 50% threshold. And so when you have that denominator, we know what that denominator is. And so it may be once it's down to 2, then you eliminate that final person. And so then somebody will cross the 50%. And it's kind of like that one man standing. Now, it's gonna be a little different in the general election. Because in the general election, we have traditionally been allowed to vote for 2 in the at-large seat. And I don't know if that's what you're getting at. Okay, yeah, so that's very different than the election, the special election. So when you can vote for 2, you're right, 2 people, will not cross. And so that is last 2 standing, last 2 people standing. So that is.
Repeat that one more time.
So we are used to selecting 2 candidates in the at-large council race in the general election.
Yeah.
We will no longer select 2 candidates. You rank everybody. So you will not be able to give 2 candidates a number 1. You will just do ranking as you've always done.
Even for the independent,
Yes.
You will not select 2 candidates you rank. This was not our determination. We are following the legislation as it was written.
So
Now, I just want to say there was another question before yours. Oh, just saying.
maybe we stay on
Okay.
this for a second.
Okay.
I'm just trying to get clear.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Finish up.
Can you just say that one more time, just so that we are
Yes, and
clear?
I want to be clear, this is
Can you
not-
use Troy as candidate 1
the
and yourself as
Democrats
candidate 2?
So, excuse me. So first, I want to be clear, this is applicable for the general election.
Yes, not the
So that
primary.
is why it's not in our slide deck, because it will not be applicable for the primary. And that's why I was thinking you were talking about the special election. When
No, I was
you
referring
said
to
yes.
this because I know
Yes.
traditionally.
And so traditionally, when you vote in that at-large council race, we vote for 2. And so you vote for your top 2 candidates, 1 and 2, and you're allowed to select 2. Now, you will rank those candidates just like you're ranking every other contest. So it will be the same process for each contest where you are ranking. You do not get 2 votes. You get 5 votes, but they don't have the same weight. Where you used to get 2 votes that had the same weight, now you're getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you will rank your top 5 candidates. And it's essentially the last 2 candidates remaining, and those last 2 will be declared the winner.
So, is it about the same question here? Okay, because this is not into the general election. Like, we have time for that.
Yeah, and I don't want to go too deep
what
into
I'm
this
saying.
right now, because I prefer to focus on the primary, because we know we're gonna have to have some more graphics and specific education to explain that process so that people get it. But we know that that's going to be problematic. And we've seen that problematic in other jurisdictions, and even with campaigns giving voters the wrong information. That was even the case in our neighboring Arlington County, where they had a similar contest where they could vote for 2, and the campaign said, don't listen to them, still rank 2, give them the same ranking. So we want to make sure we're doing education with the campaigns and with candidates and with the general public. So we will have clearer and more definitive information. So I don't want to go too deep into that since I really prefer to focus on the primary. But that is a very valid point, and that's going to be a very different distinction that is going to need to be explained.
Okay, so Regina had a question,
Yes.
and then I saw Finest.
So, when you come out to do your presentation, will you bring one of the machines? That's the first part.
Yes, whenever you want us to come out, if you want machines, just request machines. That's not a problem. We can do a presentation
These
with
are
machines.
seniors.
We can do a presentation without machines, and we can do presentations virtually. So just let us know what you want us to do, and we can absolutely accommodate.
So my
your
next
request.
question is, the last election, there was a big controversy about the men and women who are incarcerated, DC residents, how the BOP was not allowing them to vote. Even at DC jail, they were not allowed to vote. What is the advocacy centered around that piece? Because I've attended some meetings for those who are recently and who are presently incarcerated about making sure that their rights, because DC is one of the only jurisdictions in this area where they still have the right to vote. So what is the advocacy from your end? Because it was, I mean, you heard about it, it's very illegal practice, but it's got swept under the rug, and we kind of make sure that doesn't happen. This is a really big election, important election coming up.
Absolutely, and so just to ensure everyone knows that you do not lose voting rights in DC by virtue of being incarcerated, even on a felony charge. And so those who are residents of correctional facilities have the same voting rights as anyone else. And so we have an entire Restore the Vote unit that goes into DOC, and we provide information, but also in addition to DOC, we have DC residents in the Federal Bureau of Systems, Federal Bureau of Prison System, and so we have to reach out to them too, to give them the opportunity to register and to give them the opportunity to vote. So it's a lot easier in DC because we're able to have a more hands-on approach. And so not only do we conduct voter education and outreach in the DOC, we have trained residents in the DOC to be election workers. And we will set up polling sites, polling locations at the DOC, and we've done that for the last few election cycles.
Right, but it wasn't allowed.
That was a special, and that was out of our control.
Okay.
But for.
No, I'm talking about the election when the mayor just recently ran, when she ran years ago. There were several residents were denied the access to vote, even right here at DC jail. So what is the advocacy centered around? It was a big old thing, made the news, was in the paper, and it just went away. So we want to make sure that doesn't happen this election.
Yes, there's always a report filed, and we will get evidence we work with DOC, we have a point of contact there, and so in some instances, people said they were not offered the opportunity to vote, and we did find evidence where people actually signed that they were offered the opportunity to vote and did not vote. And so we're trying to have measures like that so we can track and ensure that people are offered the opportunity to vote, and then they may decline that opportunity. So we're working with the DOC to get those statistics and to get that information.
We are watching. Thank you.
Yes, and we are too. I mean, and first of all, I just want to say, I am 100% committed to ensure that every person who wants to vote is able to vote.
But it wasn't on your end.
Oh, I understand.
It was on VOC.
But I believe in access to the franchise. And so that's why we work with our partners when we hear about something to try to get it resolved, whether it's our issue or their issue. If it's something that we can help them work through, then we will do that. And so that was part of the process of them keeping records of actually offering and extending the opportunity, and individuals were declining that opportunity, which is very different than not being offered the opportunity. And so we're trying to look at some best practices to mitigate some of those instances. So,
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Finest.
Yeah, Ms. Evans, I know you don't want to dig too deeply into the general election, but this kind of borders on it. Does ranked choice voting preserve the statutory minority seats on the council?
It does.
As far as parties, when you say
Yes.
minority, yes, it does, yes.
And the other is not a question of comment. We have 150 guys in Baltimore in a halfway house. And I'm sure the Board of Elections is familiar with that.
Yes.
I've had the opportunity to work with them for, in a number of years, they moved to, I still hire them out of the facility in Baltimore, but there are a lot of people not paying a lot of attention to them.
Yes, we do visit the halfway houses and conduct voter education and outreach there. I think there's one in Laurel there. So yes, we're absolutely going out.
Thanks.
And I do want to just put a plug into what Regina said, because I remember doing some voter education with the CSOSA, and I was there. Yes, I know I have a party hat on, but when you are doing voter education and registration, your party label has to go to the side. I follow the rules. But essentially, the men and women who were in that room were like, oh, I can't vote. I'm not supposed to vote. I don't know anything about voting. I'm like, what do you mean? Like here in DC, this is when we voted recently at that time to restore everyone. And I said, no. He said, no, I'm telling you right now, when I was in the joint, like, they were telling me, I was like, who was they? They was like, fellas from, I said, well, were they from other states? And they were from other states. And what she said is right. Like in other states, they don't have the same liberties like we have in the District of Columbia when it comes to voting. And so they were listening to their other members about, and they didn't get the information from us. So to the extent that we can just shout it from a rooftop about the ability to vote in the district and how we restore, or you never lose actually now, your right to vote, I think is always important.
Absolutely, and I just signed off on a letter on Thursday that's going to those in DOC and Federal Bureau of Prisons that not only gives them the opportunity to register to vote, to update the registration, but it also provides information on ranked choice voting and the fact that they're going to get a ballot in the mail. We have a lot more success with DOC because that's local. When we're dealing with other jurisdictions that do not have the same voting rules and extend the same voting rights, sometimes there is a level of opposition when they see the materials we're sending to the facilities, because we have to rely on them to distribute those materials. We get information when residents are moved from one facility to another, and they have said that they might have better success in getting the ballot and getting the information in one facility than they do in another. And unfortunately, it's not something we can control. There was an executive order in place that required the BOP facilities to cooperate, and the current administration has chosen to rescind that executive order.
I need to ask 2 questions. When we go into the ballot box, can we just vote for one person?
Yes, ma'am.
And is there a legal way to challenge ranked choice voting?
Well, I'm not going to go into whether or not there's a legal way to challenge ranked choice voting, but there was a process that brought ranked choice voting to DC. That same process can be used if there is an opposition, just like anything else. And so there is that. The other thing I will say, you can look at ranked choice voting in its totality, or after we go through a cycle, there may be things that people like and things that people don't like about it, and they want to alter, change, amend the rules around ranked choice voting. So there are absolutely a number of things that can be done if the residents in the District of Columbia choose to do those things. We had someone interested in putting an initiative measure forward, and 73% of voters said yes.
Do you have the money? Because last night I was talking to someone and telling them I was coming in. And they said you all didn't have the money to, with the ranked choice voting.
We did not get all of the money we requested for ranked choice voting. And one of the things that was really problematic initially was the fact that we had a significant budget deficit for our FY 2026 budget. But I am happy to report that the mayor was very instrumental in ensuring that that budget gap was filled. And so we no longer have the budget deficit, but we are still watching our spending because it is costly. And with the number of engagements, we're out a lot, and just the number of materials we're printing, we definitely were not funded, but some of that is being covered in our normal voter education and outreach budget, and not just with the money we receive for ranked choice voting.
Any pressing questions? Because we do want to be mindful of the time. We also have their team here. They can walk you through demonstrations. We want you to walk through those demonstrations. Walk the machines out here as well to make sure you're good with that. So we want to use our time in this way. But if there's any major big questions, I want to get those in. Go ahead.
Yeah, I do still have the same question I had since she asked the question about slate. What has slate to do with voting? Because voting is still individual choice, correct?
Yes.
On the ballot.
Yes.
Okay. And the question that she asked in the back about someone who has Alzheimer's, in terms of that person voting, you said you addressed both of these questions off after the meeting, but I'm curious as to know, since I know several people here in DC who has Alzheimer's, the voting process, can they take the person into the booth and vote with them and show them how to vote? If that's the situation?
There are rules around having someone, I know the system came on, I'm sorry about that, the AC. There are rules around requesting someone to assist you to vote, and those same rules apply with individuals who may have limited English proficiency, and you have someone, and there's a form that we have where you are requesting assistance with your ballot. And so the individual would indicate that they are assisting a voter. There are rules around who cannot assist you. So you cannot have, for instance, your employer assist you, because there may be, a dynamic where you're being pressured to vote a different way. So that information is available on our website, so we can get that to you. Just the process for those who need assistance with voting, whether it's an accessibility issue or a mobility issue. There are a number of reasons in DC why someone may not be able to vote privately, independently. And we do have rules that address that.
Just one question. I recognize that ranked choice voting is now an option and not a requirement. I'm sorry, can you all hear me now? Okay. I know now that ranked choice voting is an option and not a requirement. For this election cycle, will there be data tracking to really assess the effectiveness of ranked choice voting? So in the event that there is request for amendment to the current ranked choice voting laws, that we have data to support that?
Yes, data will be available. If you've ever gone to our website, you'll see election results have always been posted, and you can see undervotes, you can see overvotes, so that information is on our website. And again, that's one of the things that we're looking at as far as best practices to ensure that we are being very transparent in how we report that information and that data. And so for those who are interested in that data, they'll be able to see the number of ballots that had an issue one way or the other. So we are very aware that people are looking at this, so we will absolutely make that information available and make it available in a way that people understand it.
Thank you.
Just one quick question. So the undervotes, like if you only choose to vote for one person for each position and you don't want to rank anyone else, is that counted as an undervote when you're over and under? Or is that?
Yes, so typically, if there's a contest and I don't vote for anybody in that particular contest, so I may only want to vote for mayor, my ward seat. When I get to you know, yeah, I mean, I don't know these people, I don't know, yeah. I'm just example. And then, so that would be an undervote, because we have your ballot and we know that you voted for some. If you can vote for two, you only vote for one, that would be considered an undervote. And that information is captured on our website as far as the number of overvotes and undervotes. And so with ranked choice voting, it will depend on how many rounds of tabulation we do. So if we're looking at that first round, and then we go to, and then you only choose to vote for one person, as we move to subsequent rounds of tabulation, those are considered undervotes. Because as you know, the denominator is going to continue to change. And so we're looking at the total number of votes in that round to determine who comes off. And so that number may drop if people are not continuing to rank candidates.
So before we go, so the Ward 8 Democrats did a RCV exercise back in December, and we used one of the online systems, and we tried to mimic as best we could, as we understood what this system would look like. We ranked our favorite Kwanzaa principle, right? We were going through the Kwanzaa season, and so we ranked, Umoja, Kujichagulia, Ujimojaga. And what we saw was that, and we had up to 5, obviously, it's very similar to ours. What we saw was that Umoja was in the lead in the first, the first round, like we have here. It's same thing what you had earlier. It's like, nope, I'm done. But in the first round, Umoja had, the first round of voting, Umoja was in the lead. And then, this is good. Yeah, the first round, Umoja was in the lead. But Kujichagulia was like on his heels. And Umoja eventually got to 50% plus 1, but it took until the 5th round to get there. But what it looked like was, yes, people who selected other options, when they realized they weren't going to be the top 2, they got eliminated like you see here. But it seemed to me like it actually rejiggered the entire percentages of just what was there. So yes, it still did the whole drop the one with the lowest vote count, and then if they voted for a second or a third or fourth or fifth choice, it got reallocated. But when it got to the top 2, it was like, yeah, but at this point, someone has to win. And so it just gave, I'm not gonna say it gave it to Umoja, but essentially Umoja won, because even into the 4th round, Umoja still had not gotten to 50%.
Right.
So I'm just curious, and that might be too much in the weeds, but I'm just curious in the tabulation, is that will we see once you get to like your top 3 or 2, that it's just gonna say, okay, right now we've got 3 people in the race, and we know we have to get to somebody. So even if that means no one else made a vote on the other ballots, we want to lean some way or another. The system will do that automatically.
Yes.
Okay. Can you talk a
because
bit about that?
That denominator is going to keep changing.
Right.
And so as you go to the subsequent, somebody comes off, and maybe the candidate that comes off, the people who voted for that candidate, if they didn't vote for subsequent candidates, then that denominator changes in that next round of tabulation, and so you have fewer voters in that next round, which would decrease the overall vote needed to cross the 50% threshold.
Okay.
Just a technical issue. So if you're ranked Beyonce, right, and you pass the first round, and then you're on to the second round, and it's less voters because some people got kicked off and some people only voted one time, you never lose your first.
Correct.
You just add on to that, but
Correct.
it never loses.
Correct.
So you got 25 votes, and you get 25 more, but you never. It's not like you're starting over.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So I think this is a good time to pause and thank Monica. She stood in for an hour and a half giving a great presentation and answering our questions. And again, I want to make sure that if you have those like a very specific question about someone's health and voting, that you have a chance to talk with the director about that. But you also have staff from the DC Board of Elections who can walk you through the ballot process as well as the electronic machines. Get your questions answered so that, because this is about training the trainer, so we can go out into the community and replicate ourselves, especially right here in Ward 8. Okay, do y'all feel smarter about it now than you started? Yes? You do feel a little bit more? Okay, cool. A little bit. She said a little bit. I ain't gonna say a whole lot.
But the one thing I would say, sometimes when you sit with it, you'll have other questions. Please feel free to reach out.
Yeah.
You know, you have contact information and we'll walk you through it. And we don't mind coming back out. You know, it's not one bite at the apple and you have to, you know, understand it. We really are making every effort to reach voters and make sure you understand it. So please don't walk away confused. Or if you walk away confused and uncertain and you say, I want to look at the information and digest it, and then you're still not clear, I'd rather you reach out to us, ask us to come out, or ask questions. You can reach out to the RCV at DCBOE.org website, web address for email, and we will get those questions answered for you. And the other thing that we're going to do, if we see a lot of recurring questions, we're going to continue to update the FAQs too, so that we are seeing where people are having pain points, the things that people are constantly asking, so we can update the FAQs to reflect that, and you'll be able to go to the website and get those questions answered as well.
We know there's a general election go ahead.
I'm sorry, I just recalled that maybe you mentioned it already. I think you said like there's a video or like maybe in training material for the video.
Yeah, the video's coming.
Okay, and in that video, I would highly suggest to include like those simulations, like at the end, right? Because a lot of times videos have information, right? And however you present that, but a quick, and I'll think that he's like, hey, pop quiz, right? Somehow you need to ask these, because I'm thinking about the populations that I interact with on a regular basis, right? How do they receive that information? I'm thinking about how do I take this back to them, right? Somehow at the end of your video and content, I'm sure.
Yeah, the video does have Q&A, but I'm just curious, has anyone been to the BOE website and looked at RCV? Yes, because one of the things I will say, if you want to practice, there is an app and you can rank your ice cream colors. Please go to the DCBOE website. There's a whole section. Well, there's you can press the button. So all you need is your phone. You press the button and you vote. And you can vote, and then you can hit next, and we'll give you a visual display of how the rounds of tabulation work. And so I'm a visual learner, so you can tell me something, but when I'm able to see it, it crystallizes for me. So we're trying to meet people where they are and have a lot of different ways and a lot of different tools, so it's not just one thing. So, but also if you have any suggestions about things, that's why we're trying to do things differently than we've done in the past, where we have the lab, so you can always come to our headquarters and play with the equipment, get questions answered, pick up materials, pick up multiple materials. You may want to hand materials out to your neighbors who have not heard about it. You may want to sit down with someone who might have mobility challenges and may not be able to get out to the Ward 8 Dems meeting, and so take information to them and help them to understand and become familiar with the process. One of the big hurdles first is just letting people know it's coming. And so once people know it's coming, a lot of people will be encouraged to go and seek information. But with some, of the population, we know that they haven't heard of it, and that's why it's such a heavy lift for us right now. And so to the extent we can use our community partners and use DC residents and voters as ambassadors, haven't heard of it, reach out to Board of Elections, point them to the website, give them a palm card, give them the FAQs. We're really, we know we can't do it alone. So thank you.
And that's exactly why we're holding this community meeting today. We know everyone is not here, and we recognize that. But those of us who are here, we're going to leave here far more informed, better educated, and ready to help the next person that we come across who may have questions about RCV or voting in general. Because there were other questions here too. It wasn't just about RCV, right? It's about our returning citizens and questions about the ballot, and we know we're going to have 55 Dropbox locations, for example. We're going to have vote centers, all of that stuff. So we want to make sure that we are educated so that we can go out and educate others. And that's why I want you all to make sure you get a chance to talk with Jelani and David about the voting machines, and then also any other questions you have. And of course, Monica is still here as well. I do want to recognize the executive team from the Ward 8 Democrats who are here. So I do want to recognize Regina Pixley, who is here. Wave your hand, Regina. I want to recognize Sheila Bunn, who is here. I want to recognize Michael Greer, our Issues and Legislative Affairs Chair. I want to recognize Daryl Ross, who is our longtime treasurer, who is here to make sure the money is right. And certainly those of you who are here, I just want to thank y'all for being here. I would be remiss if I didn't recognize the immediate past president who was here, Mr. Leonard Watson Jr., who was in the back of the room there. Thank you for being here as well. And so, this is the time really to make sure that you have your questions answered. I feel like I've learned a lot more than I started. And I'm pretty good on picking up on stuff, but I feel like your presentation was quite thorough. And so once again, let's give her and the team a round of applause.
And of course, a special shout out to Jelani and David. I have, and I say this all the time, if you've ever seen me testify, performance oversight hearings, I always thank my staff. They are awesome. Best election staff in this country, bar none. So, thank you.